is Anastasia Paulmann, who is a postdoctoral researcher at the MDI Biological Laboratory in the Haller Lab. MDI is one of my favorite places in Maine.
Everything good?
There's an edge there. Wow, that was amazing how it went from there. So MDI Biolab they do remarkable work. They're the other research lab on I guess it's MDI. Most people know about JAX, who was also represented here, but MDI is also there. So Anastasia was born in Kiev, Ukraine, and moved to Germany with her parents at the age of 4. She received her medical license in 2017 and started working in the nephrology department at Hanover, which is in Germany, correct? Mm-hmm. Treating patients with kidney disease before and after kidney transplantation and at an outpatient dialysis ward. She then transitioned to acute dialysis and she spent a long time as a medical coordinator for renal transplant recipients. But the COVID pandemic changed how she viewed clinical practice. And as a result, she became interested in preclinical research and how it can impact the lives of patients. Her doctoral thesis was focused on healing chronic wounds, and she now studies blood vessels in the African turquoise killifish, an exciting new model for aging research. And when I asked Anastasia for her pop culture reference, she gave my favorite answer, which is too many to list. But then the favorite is How the Universe Works. And I also have a list of other recommendations from her. If you want, I can tell you them later as well.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much for the invitation, Kate. This is the African turquoise killifish. It lives fast and dies young, so you hopefully don't have to. When we grow older, or we all want to grow older, but have you ever asked yourself, how old do you actually want to be? So when I asked this a lab member from the other side of our lab, they said immediately, well, depends on my health. And that's the point. What we want to do is not grow old, we want to grow old healthy. So our lab focuses not only on extending lifespan, but actually to optimize your health span. So how do we do this exactly? Now, when you think about aging, it does appear that certain age-related diseases appear. They affect the brain, the heart, and of course my favorite organ, the kidneys. And if you look at all those organs, even though they all have completely different structures, functions, and tissues, there is one thing they do all have in common, and that is their blood vessels. So the vasculature is this very intricate system in our body that every organ requires to do its actual work. You can imagine it's like the highway of our body, connecting all the body parts together. And our blood vessels transport, as you maybe have learned in school, oxygen and nutrients to our cells, and they take away carbon dioxide and waste, basically like the recycling of our body. Now, when we age, or when we are still young, so to say, our blood vessels divide into tiny, tiny vessels, which we call the capillaries. These capillaries form a dense network, which we call the microvasculature. But as we grow older, our blood vessels disappear. It's a process we call the microvascular rarefication. And as you can imagine, without those important blood vessels, your body doesn't function as well. So how do we research this now? Usually aging research is done in organisms like yeast and worms and flies. And even though these guys are very short-lived, a couple of days to weeks, they don't have blood vessels. So we can't look what we are interested in. On the other side, mouse and zebrafish do have blood vessels, but their long lifespan of several years makes aging studies very difficult. That's why the MDI-BL, I use the African turquoise killifish. This fish unites the short lifespan with being a vertebrate. So they do have blood vessels that make it very similar to ourselves. They come from Africa, as their names suggest, and they live in the beautiful Ganaruzu National Park. Kind of looks like MDI, doesn't it? So they live in those little ponds that are basically just like rainy puddles. But when the dry season hits, their habitat completely dries out and the fish dies. So these fish have developed a life cycle that allows them to hatch and grow into adults in an extreme fast manner. In a couple of weeks, they can reach sexual maturity and reproduce. And while in the wild, the little embryos can survive in the mud, the adult fish dies. So all they see all their life is basically this muddy puddle and my lab. Because in my lab, I'm able to make them grow older than what they usually would in the wild and study their aging. And the funny thing is they age remarkably similar to us. They kind of grow gray, they start hunching over, they lose muscle, they lose mobility, they even lose memory. And the best thing they do, they lose blood vessels. This looks a little bit different than what I put up, but what you may be able to see on the right side, you see the vasculature of a young killifish, and on the other side of an old killifish. And what I was able to discover is that with age, they lose over 30% of their blood vessels. And now I'm trying to figure out how to preserve their vasculature and reverse this process. Thank you very much.
There aren't questions for Anastasia. I'm going to take over because I've got a bunch. Okay.
Well, that was really impressive. I mean, last time I was at MDIBL, they were working with zebrafish, and it was about reconstructing, like, I think they could cut 20% of the heart and have it regrow. Yeah. Are you still doing that, or is that kind of gone away? Or
yes.
I mean, how does that to your research now?
So at the MDI, we basically are interested in development. How does the body, so to say, develop itself? We study regeneration. So how can we keep ourselves healthy? And of course, we are interested in the aging process. So we try to unite all the aspects from birth to staying healthy to how we can stay healthy in long age. The interesting thing is the zebrafish has also a very rapid maturation process. So it's very easy to study development using the zebrafish. But the zebrafish can live 2 to 5 years. The killifish, on the other side, does take a lot longer to mature than zebrafish, but basically their trajectory of maturation keeps it so fast that it basically reaches age much, much shorter. You can think of like back in high school. There were those kids that were already looking like adults, and when you saw them 30 years later, well, they were looking quite older. So same mechanism applies.
How do you test the killifish to know that they're losing memory? And can you directly connect that to the loss of blood vessels?
Yes, so we haven't measured the blood vessels in the brain yet because the measurement of the blood vessels was really hard to do. But for example, for the killifish, the way you can study their memory is they get in a certain box with a light and a dark spot, and they usually want to be in the dark. And then depending on where they go and where they get their food, you can see how well the memory is. And we do see that there is differences between young animals and old animals. So I have to say this is work that is done by the University of Leuven in Belgium.
So do you think that a lack of blood vessels in the brain could be attributing to that? I'm totally making you ask, like, yes, I'm just curious.
Definitely. So we know even in the human that diseases like vascular dementia are definitely associated with a lot of loss of blood vessels. Our interest now, so I have to say, when I started this research and started using African turkeys, killifish as a model, nobody knew if they would have microvascular rarefication. So I'm very happy to say that we did find out they do have it. And now we can try all our different interventions to see if we can preserve their blood vessels or not.
Have you been able to observe them after an injury to see the healing process?
Yes, so the interesting thing is while they're still young, they're capable of regenerating even their heart. But as they grow older, they lose their ability to regenerate, and instead they show more scarring. And